Welcome. Hello, friends, enemies, kind mothers.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, David.
Where's Luis?
Luis,
Luis.
he's on his way.
Oh. Oh, there he is. There's the great God right there.
You know,
Huh?
the the founder of reality is common sense. No, what is
that
it?
right?
I don't know.
Well, I know that sounds like a very good description of reality. You know what I mean? In a way, you know, you could take and almost compare that to what's going on with this coronavirus. You know, on one hand, you have, you know, everybody being scared of getting the coronavirus, which is really not killing that many people now, only if you're over 85. You know, and then they come out and they say so many people have been cured by taking hydroxychloroquine, but yet on the other hand, the news media and nobody acknowledges hydroxychloroquine. But the thing is, the doctors that use it have supposedly healed a lot of people, and a lot of people that have taken it have given testimony that, hey, it cured them, you know, but yet they don't allow it to be, you know, portrayed in the media as something that's a therapy for this hydroxychloroquine. So in common sense, in reality, would you take the hydroxychloroquine if you came down with the coronavirus?
Just a point of order, it's the HDX, which is just a common abbreviation for what you're giving reference to as a cure.
It's the what? Wait a second, it's the what?
Hey, hydroxychloroquine, and that's the last time I'm going to say that word. I'm just going to refer to it as HDX from here out because it's so much easier to say.
HDX?
Right, that's the common abbreviation. But the point of order is that it is that when paired with zinc and vitamin D. So that hydroxychloroquine, up there, I just broke my own rule. It is traditionally something that's given as an anti thing spread by mosquitoes.
Malaria.
Malaria, right. Now, the way anti-malarials work is that you take them before you get infected. And the idea with the HDX combined with zinc and vitamin D, and I think that you know, these are being used as treatments early in the process. So
well, that's true. But the thing is, some people have taken it even though they've had it and given testimony that, you know, they were really very, very, very sick. And the thing is,
right.
If they took the hydroxychloroquine, they came out of that sickness. It stopped them. There's other
right. Well, hold on. The other aspect is that there's probably been many more people who've been sick, have taken nothing, and have come out of that sickness.
I agree.
HDX is an anti-malarial again, so it's meaning it works against a certain virus. Some doctors decided to try it on this COVID-19 and have reported positive results. Not the entire medical community is not in agreement over it.
Wait a second. Now, I got
neither
one thing.
for or against its use, but I merely want to state that the true cure, and you can add things, you can take things away, but the true cure is the immune system and having good immune health. In other words, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you're more or less in a healthy state, you're more or less probably going to be able to overcome this particular novel coronavirus. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, the thing is, to me, there's been things that have been offered. Not only that, there's other, you know, I think probably people have been probably experimenting with herbal remedies for this too. You know, and also there's another doctor that's having proven cases. You say that it's not proven. They did a study up at Ford Hospital in Michigan, you know, where they took so many different people and they found that, hey, it really worked. But they had a hard time even getting that study out because of the media and the what do they call it, the deep state and all this other stuff, because they don't want this to be out that this here does good. And you can take a look at the example of the state of South Dakota, where the lady openly said that, hey, they're going to use that to take and combat that disease. And right now they're totally open. They don't wear, I don't know if they're not wearing masks or not, but they just had that thing in South Dakota with the, you know, with the motorcycles that they do all the time. I mean, this whole thing is really something that is being put out there to fear people, you know, into this vaccine thing, you know.
I'm not arguing against you. I probably fall on the same side as you.
But the thing is, Mike,
I want to provide a supporting evidence, because that's South Dakota. Here in Florida, Marion County, the sheriff sent an email on Tuesday. This was reported Thursday in the Orlando Sentinel. The sheriff says that everyone who works for him, while they're on duty for him, will not be wearing a mask, neither in the office or out in the county. And visitors also will be asked to take off masks. And in the same state, in Miami, there's a giant public media campaign to wear them, and that mask violators will pay fines. So that conflict exists even with within our own state, not just the country.
Well, the thing is, the first question that Jairo brought up was about common sense. And my answer, my rebuttal, or not rebuttal, but my question to that is, if you were given the opportunity and you had that virus and you were over 75, would you take the hydroxychloroquine if you knew that that was the only thing that was working out there, that was available, and you had it available to you? That was a question.
It's a great question.
Huh?
It's a great question.
Yeah. Well, for
I'm
me,
not over 75, so I'm not going to think about it. Go ahead.
Well, I know I said if. I mean, this was one of the, what do they call it, critical theories, you know, because that's exactly what it is what I'm asking you is a critical theory of something that puts you in a position of something where you're not.
Right. Well, this is what I would do if I were traveling to Africa, where malaria is a constant reality. I would take the
I don't care
I would take the anti-malarials if I were going there, because it has been proven to work in those places. In the meantime, I play the conservative card by only living within the way that I was living before all of this, which just happened to be compliant with most of these orders that have been given, with the exception of playgrounds being off limits for children. And the reason why I've stopped trimming my beard is as a protest over the fact that I cannot even take my child, to a playground. You know, 5, 6-year-old kids, they need to be able to run around and climb, and he cannot. And he gets awfully frustrated sometimes, not having a way to work out his energy.
I got a question now.
That's what I'm dealing with at this age.
Iro asked the question before, you know, about common sense, and I gave a scenario about answering that question. And the thing is, there seems to be, instead of answering the question, there's no answer for the question, except for that you would not do it only under circumstances. And I'm not talking about Jairo or anybody, because I just threw that out there for everybody as to what you would do, okay, to find out if there is common sense among us four as to if we would actually consider something like that or not. Because the thing is, what's so funny, because the deep state and everybody that's pushing this is on the left, okay, but yet on the other hand, many of the people on the left are actually, you know, taking this drug and even Governor Whitmer, whatever I read an article about her the other day where she went out and telling people to wear masks and everything, and then turned around and ordered a hydroxychloroquine for herself. I mean, you know, so the thing is, the substance is out there, and it's something that looks like it really does something good, but yet it's totally being pushed underneath the rug as far as our news media and people that are defending the fact that it doesn't work is out there, but yet people are using it. So the thing is, my question was, you know, with the information that's available, would somebody actually use it or not, you know? And evidently your position, you don't have a position because you don't, you know, really say. So the thing is that there's no common sense with you and me on that. So the only thing is, I don't know if there is with Jairo or with Luis or not, you know? But, you know, that there to me is a definition of common sense where more than one person actually agrees with something that to me bears witness to itself. It's a reality that is out there that people are giving testimony for that to me is something that's very real. And there's other drugs that are also out there too that are working and working much better than the hydroxychloroquine. But these drugs are being put underneath the rug just the same way the hydroxychloroquine is. So, you know, to me, is this common sense to take and hide things to help the people of the community, the society that we live in? I mean, to me, it doesn't help at all to hide different things that are actually working. That doesn't make common sense to me at all.
Well, I apply a systems theory to most everything. The only way that any media gets any attention is by way of creating a conflict. In other words, scuffling, or inventing scuffling if necessary. And governments back that because when there's a scuffle, there's a call for a need for order. So the one serves the other in this way.
Yeah, but
Each benefit as a result in a product.
There's no common sense though in going around dancing around an issue. You know, I mean, the thing is, to me, there's a reality there, period. Okay, there's a reality in your world there too that you know, this is what the government does. Well, that's true. The government does that sort of thing. You know, but the thing is, the government establishes, you know, their own, I guess, social contract, you know, with the people. But the social contract that government establishes is not real. It's a narrative. It's something that people get involved with, that they take part of. That's just like racism. Racism only exists in the minds of the people that believe in it. Because if you don't believe in it, then it's nothing to you. But the thing is, if you believe in it, then it's on your mind all the time, and you're thinking about, oh man, how can we cure this? How can we fix this? Or that's bad. Those people are saying the wrong thing. That's racist, you know? But the thing is, if you don't think about it, it's not there, then it's not a problem.
Why is it important to establish what you're attributing to common sense?
Why is
in other words, you're looking for consensus or support. I support you as a human being.
I mean,
right.
Come on. Jeez,
right. Well, hold on. Yes, but I would say that there is a distinguishment between consensus and common sense, because everyone can be wrong. Some can be right, some can be wrong. Everyone can be correct in a way. So I support you to have a long and prosperous life. Because of that, and because I cannot say for certain, I cannot endorse.
Wait a second. Treatment. Why do I care what you think about my life?
That's right. It's because you care to be in a community, I think. A community of like-minded individuals, because in that there is security.
Luis, I gotta go get a cup of coffee. But
well, guys, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing? I had a question for you. When you get through, I want to ask you my question. I'll be right back.
Luis, how are you?
I am ecstatic.
I heard, or you told me the other day that you were chatting. Was it on LinkedIn?
I think it must have been, yes, it must have been on LinkedIn.
and it was something that sounds stupidly simple.
Yes.
Of fundamental importance.
It struck me as such. Yes.
When you said that when something happens, an event, and like driving on I-4 and boom, let's say that you have a flat tire, then you start, instead of maybe going out of the way and making sure you're safe and working on the problem and maybe calling AAA or something, you start thinking, if only I hadn't been on I-4, or if only I had been on a different lane, or if only I had taken another route, then this event would not have happened. And you're positing or proclaiming that the event happened, and because it happened, it could not have
Not
been
happen.
otherwise. Is that
When
correct?
something has happened, it is impossible for it not to have happened. It's that simple. It's that simple. So there's no what if. It happened. And the problem that we have generally as human beings is trying to deny, suppress, repress reality. That's simple. So we are constantly fighting against what is. We are trying to find ways to deny reality. We look back, looking for answers. I want an explanation. Why is this like this? Why are people asses? Why, are politicians like this? Why are people like that? Why is it that they're nasty people? Why are they good people? Why am I here? Why was I born here? Why,
Are you saying
etc.
that we shouldn't ask the question why?
We cannot, because scientifically, when you think about it, from the big picture, scientifically, the amount of factors involved in the emergence of an actuality, an event, a phenomenon, are so infinite and complex that we would have to have a supercomputer go into the origin of time, which doesn't exist because life, reality is infinite and eternal. And I can argue that. For that,
in other
I
words,
can
you're
argue for.
saying we all should just stay stupid.
I'm sorry. No. On the contrary. So these. Let's start over because you left when Jairo was asking me. Before this meeting, I called Jairo. I had a big aha moment prompted from a chat on LinkedIn with a guy that I barely know, and he was talking about the book by Kahneman, Fast Thought, Slow Thought, or Fast Thinking, Slow Thinking.
Thinking, comma, fast and slow, or something like that.
Fast and slow, yeah. And so, just a thought occurred to me regarding existential questions. Why this? Why that? Politics. Why are people stupid? Why don't they behave? Why are some people? Why don't people don't want to work or don't want to get along? And the very simple question arose in my mind, and I said, when something has happened, an event has taken place. It is. We always ask why this happened. What if? What if this guy hadn't been there? What if Hitler hadn't existed? What if? What if? What if? But that question is nonsensical.
Absolutely,
Because it is evident that reality is happening no matter what, no matter how. The arrow of time is it goes one way, and it's because of the entropy formula, the way a system can be expressed in different states and still look the same. We talk about that too. But my question was, or my thinking was, that we spend a lot of time trying to deny, explain, or suppress or repress reality as it is. And we spend time asking of the causes instead of working, how to deal with what is into the future. Go ahead, Rami.
Two responses. One, I would replace the word infinite, which is uncomprehendable, with multivariant, which is to say that in actuality, all things which determine all events are finite things. Okay? And the closer we get to, or the closer that we are, the clearer the set of variables. This is why when you in your job are in your environment, you can understand what's going on because you're close to and you spent time studying and understanding what the variables are. So you know what the potential outcomes may be.
Let me interject to that so you can continue the thought. But it is true that if you want to know why you smashed your finger with a hammer, it is a very simple thing to kind of explain. But it's a very simple explanation to a very simple phenomenon.
Right.
It doesn't give you any meaning. Right. There's no big like, wow, this was big. No, this was your finger being smashed by a hammer because there was your finger, there was a hammer, you were doing the simple activity, and then you smashed the heck out of it. Right. No, but that is not what we're talking about. Trying to find meaning, in our daily lives and just be self-actualizing, going like, whoa.
Right.
Yes, so you can continue now. So it's a very small meaning. I'm not looking for small meaning. The conventional kind of practical, well, next time I'm going to be more careful, or I'm going to wear a thicker glove. So that is too trivial. That is trivial to me.
That is trivial because you gave the univariant case. We exist within fields of multivariant situations with multivariant variables. Okay? And the reason why people go back to causes is so that they can understand effects. Now, if any of your first principles are off, then all of your understandings of the effects will likewise be off.
Yes. So, no big deal. No big deal.
So, Rami, are you saying that you're recommending, Luis, that he revise his thesis, but by instead of saying infinite, like no beginning to time, that there should be a beginning, or otherwise we couldn't have anything finite or something like that?
Yes, because even if the universe is constantly going from primordial atom to entropy, death, and then becomes reborn new again, that before and that after is irrelevant to our existence, because what we are is existing as a case of this beginning as it's continuing to roll forth.
But we could also say that we can assume that there was no beginning, like when you turn on a sine wave generator, and you see the sine wave, and it's been going on for a while. You can assume that it never had a beginning, that there was a beginning when you turned on the machine.
Yes, if you want to put blinders on and ignore the science, you can do that. But the science evidences to there having been a beginning to this universe.
No.
So it becomes a matter of belief in two different systems.
Well,
and
or
you're
the
choosing,
science,
and which system you choose determines your first principle with regard to that portion of the nature of the universe.
right,
or
right.
the science assumes that there was a steady expansion, but what if it's varying like a sine wave, and we're going through it an expansion that later it'll stop and then contract,
Oh,
and like this, like a sine wave.
so it's a very dangerous exercise to ignore our intuition into the sense of infinity and eternity. Very, very dangerous, because when we try to deny the intuition of what is before and what is before, we fall into somehow an existential neurosis, and it's like we want the rabbit hole to have an end, to have a beginning, because the beginning is the end. And it's a very dangerous idea to suppress the very intuition that being has no beginning and has no end. It's just a constant change, a constant flow, a constant restructuring of phenomena as nothing for a background. In reality, is both the nothing and the something.
Okay, I think you're employing fear words.
No, no, no. Neurosis is not a scary word. I'm not. Neurosis is an existential uneasiness. It's like, I don't get this. I don't get myself. I don't get reality. And
Right.
that's the problem of human beings. I mean,
Okay.
smashing your finger with a hammer is annoying and very painful. But it's not an existential exercise. But what we're talking here is the problem that we have with our existential uneasiness about being, making sense of things, making sense of ourselves, making sense of the whole. That's what I'm trying to go to.
I got something to say when you get time.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to say something when you get time.
Go ahead.
The thing is, I don't know. I look at these quotes and stuff from the past, like from Aristotle and all these people, and they point out one thing. One of them said, I don't know which one it was, but the present is merely a transition from the past to the future. And I sort of believe that, just like you were talking about hitting your finger with a nail. I mean, a person who has inexperience and does that, he hits his finger with a nail. After a while, when he hits his finger enough, he stops hitting his finger with the nail. I mean, with the hammer, and then, he lives his life. It's the same way with driving a vehicle. I mean, when you first start out, you don't know what you're doing. You get in a couple accidents, you may get a couple tickets, you may get in a couple close calls, but after a while, when you're driving, you end up knowing what to look for, and that there is transitions you into a future position. And I believe that there's a very simple answer. I mean, I don't want to be God. I don't want to know everything in the universe because it's so huge. I know I can't know that, but it satisfies my own hunger for understanding, the past, the present, and the future. To try to understand it and figure it out. I mean, why? There's no purpose in that,
Ignorance is bliss. No problem. No problem.
What?
It's knowing is not mandatory.
Knowing
So
what?
it's knowing, understanding, making sense of things. So it's not a mandatory thing. This is truly a personal and
No, but knowing may not be a mandatory thing, but understanding is not a mandatory thing either. But the thing is, when you understand something, you have relief from that fire inside of you saying why and what and all this other stuff. If you
so
understand something,
you can take
really
those questions. Yes,
huh?
you just said it. You just said it. So when you understand, you get a relief. It's like,
Right.
I got this.
That's
Whatever
why knowledge.
your understanding might be. I was just reading this morning about eudaimonics. The word eudaimonics. Somebody was using the word eudaimonics. Happiness that comes from doing what is right.
Well, but the thing is, what's right is right for one person is wrong for another person. I mean,
And so
you know,
I
I mean,
was
if
gonna
they're
go,
so
I
open,
was
it's
gonna
not
go
even
there,
funny.
David. I was gonna say, no, no, no. Happiness comes from doing what I think is right.
That's right. That's true. That's happiness for you.
So
That's a,
in order for me to know what's right, I have to know. I have to make sense, and I
well,
have to make sense in all realms of being and non-being. So I have to take the question all the way to things that are so subtle, so abstract, that they go beyond phenomena. The billiard balls that are knocking left and right, and I'm going, oh, it's the cue that moved the first ball. But what moved the cue? What moved the
yeah,
man
but
that,
how does
it,
that help you in the community? It doesn't.
it's beautiful because it
It
gives
only
me a
helps you to
sense.
yourself, though.
It gives me a sense of another word that was thrown out there this morning when I was reading entelechy or entelechy.
Yeah, but that's your own. I mean, intelligence is
No, no, no.
individual. It's an
It's not
individual perception.
intelligence. It's an entelechy, which is to become whole, to make sense of oneself, to be autotelic. I my experience. This is my experience, David. The more I understand myself, and the more I understand myself, the more I understand the universe. The more I understand that the observed, the universe, the observer, me, and the very act of observation are one and the same, essentially, the better I get along with Rami, David, Joe Schmuck out there on I-4, my boss, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera.
I
So
agree. I agree with that. The only thing is, me and you sort of go on the same path in a way, but yet our individuality takes us off on a little bit different paths. And where we're really common is in the fact that words. You like words and you understand words and you pursue them. And the thing is, it causes you
that's
to
the
go
only way
off
I
in
can
whatever.
think rationally. Yeah. There are two
But
ways that the human being senses the universe or senses itself, because you are the universe thinking itself, sensing itself. So you can feel. First, you have to feel. You have to have the perceptions, because if you don't feel, you nothing happens. You don't know,
you got there's right
and
now.
and
The
and
thing
then
is,
you
people
have to
don't talk about
process.
the idea of feeling enough because the thing is, a person has senses, your four or five senses, whatever it is, but the thing is, one thing, your mind is what puts them all together.
That's right. So the first one is input through the senses, and then there's processing,
Yep.
and that's in order to process. That's what we have as human beings. We don't feel things. We think them. We
Well, I
rationalize
disagree. I
them.
think
We
that,
organize them. We process. In the Hindu or in the Buddhist ways, they talk about we fabricate. Our thought is like a Lego. We put Lego pieces together and we build things, and then we call them, we label them. So
yeah. Well, okay, that gets back.
that's why words are very important. I agree with you, because it goes beyond feeling. Then you somehow fabricate or you process feelings through words.
Yeah,
Luis,
that goes back to my question that I had for you today, Luis.
Yes.
Luis, is there
Uh-oh.
a, sorry, David, Luis, is there a distinction that you're making between uh, feel or sense perception and and recognizing things out there and feelings? There should, where does feelings come in between
Yep.
feel things, sense things, and then come up with a thought about it?
Excellent
Is
question. So I'm going
feelings
to
in
answer
there
that.
somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that. But go ahead, David. What is your question?
Okay, my question is, Luis. The thing is, in High Rose always good for questions. I love this guy for that because he comes up with so many things. Just like our discussion today was something about Nietzsche and everything. Well, it took me off on a little word investigation, you might say, and looking up Nietzsche and what he's all about and everything. And the thing is, I came across this. Here's two words that are at the center of, it seems, our society today, which is called a social contract. What does that, how do you define a social contract?
Okay. Well, let's go to the simple one, and then I'll go to the complicated one. Social contract is an agreement. And in this case, the way I define it, social contract is an agreement between the individuals that compose the collective and the collective that
Well,
is
yeah.
composed of individuals. So basically, a social contract is establishing the rules of the game, just like you play soccer. You know, you can touch the ball with your hands, you can touch it with your shoulders, you can touch it with your head and your feet and your body, but not your arm or your hands.
Would you consider that a social contract?
It is a contract. A game is a contract.
Right. So the thing is, life is made up of many, many different social contracts.
No, it's one big social contract with a lot of rules.
Well, not necessarily, because the thing is, the people that are playing soccer and they have the rules in their league or whatever, that there is a social contract within that particular group in order to play that game. Because if they don't have those rules, that social contract, there is no game.
That's right. And then there's a game of basketball versus soccer, but it's still a contract.
Right. They still have their own social contract.
Yes. Every interaction, every human interaction, just to two beings. Just imagine the whole planet with just only two human beings. The interaction of two human beings is a social contract.
Yeah, the common interaction.
Yeah, it's
whatever they agree.
Hey, so you don't lift your hammer at me, I won't lift my shield at you, or stuff like that.
Right.
So Rami, you're trying to interject, but I haven't yet answered the second question for Jairo. So let me finish. The social contract is an agreement between human beings. Right. At whatever game or level needs to be decided. For example, the rules change between individuals depending on their status within the collective.
Yeah, but the thing is, when a person is born into a family, automatically they're born into a social contract.
Yes. Any human interaction is an agreement.
Is a social contract.
Or we are just like animals or stuff, and we just fight each other. You know?
Right.
So any what we call human interaction is a social contract, is an agreement.
Yeah.
But animals have social contracts too, like if you live in a
yes.
pride,
yes,
or in a herd,
yes.
and so on.
The only thing is we don't know because we can't communicate with them very well. We assume that our interactions, our social contracts are much more complex than theirs.
Well, we have a verbal agreement, a verbal acceptance called language that we can communicate with each other, and they have their own language too, but we don't.
They have their own language. That's the thing. So I'm not going to involve the animals because I can't talk to them. I assume in my universal compassion that they are just as smart as we are in different ways. So they deserve my respect, like you deserve my respect. So Rami, you have something there to say, and then we can go back to answering the very important question by Jairo. I think that your question, David, was very important. What is social contract? It's an agreement. So how do we agree? What is fair? What is not? It's a very long conversation.
I got another one behind that too. After you get through with Jairo.
All right. All right, Rami, go ahead.
Thank you. Contracts have limitations of scope. They operate within jurisdictions, and animals, human beings, we all exist within these things known as territories. So I would say, I'm going to posit that every just social contract includes the terms of knowing what the scope is, when it is right and when it is wrong forget that. Let me just say this. We exist in a time of scope creep, okay? Because contract is compliance. Breaking of contract is to operate outside of compliance. And the idea of the social contract being all-inclusive is an overexpression of the scope of any contract, because you have to be able to move outside of the territory. not only on an oddball case, but in an everyday sort of way. You cannot have your deciding determined by some social contract. In fact, the opposite is the case. Most of our deciding is something that has to exist outside of the bounds of a common agreement. Else, all that you've ever done will all that it is all that you'll ever do. So if you want something that becomes inward and eventually loses the light of reason and of understanding, then go social contract all the way. But if you want expansion of territory, if you want mankind to go out and to be able to explore other worlds, then you have to not only have an understanding and an agreement of limit, size, of scope, but you have to be willing to enable others to go out into new territories while being mindful of the needs of those existing within the contract, and while having an understanding with regards to contracts being beyond the species itself. So in other words, if we as human beings were thinking rational, intellectual, pseudo-intellectual, whatever sort of nature of creature that we are, if we're being true to our form, to our destination, to our purpose, I think we're going to include all other forms of living within our contemplation, so that we're not becoming selfish and destructive. Because when we destroy, let's say, life forms outside of our own species, for purposes other than because we don't understand, then what we become then is an agent of death. Done.
There, beautiful points, Rami. Because here you're giving us the sense of the complexity of the social contract, the social understanding. What are the ramifications of our thinking as human beings, and then our thinking as collective, a collection of human beings? And the complexity is phenomenal. So, just talking about this just brings so many questions, so many sub-chapters of, let's consider the following. What about the environment? What about global warming? What about industrialization? What about justice? What about it's just on and on and on. The questions pile up, and that's probably why we have an overabundance of data in the 21st century. That's our problem as modern men. We have too much data, not enough sense. We can't distill meaning out of all this complication. So this goes back to David's question. Hey, too much, I turn off and I just want to know why I smashed my finger with my hammer. And let's keep it simple. But in my case, this is my personal experience, at some point in my life, the questions were overwhelming. I did not make any sense or meaning of the situation, and I had to break through. My experience was that I found meaning in the infinity and eternity. I found meaning in knowing that going through a wormhole of understanding where everything becomes subtle, abstract, difficult to understanding at the same time, a flow of information that you can flow with as a mind that makes sense of chaos. Reality is, the universe is chaos. Society is chaos. The human mind is chaos. But only chaos can make sense of chaos, understanding that it is chaos. So that's where I found my happiness. That's where I found my wholeness. That's where I found an answer to every question, but not in conventional terms, not in classical physics, Not in conventional thinking, what's called phronesis, the phronesis, which is conventional wisdom, conventional, okay, if you do this, you do that, chances are you're going to be happier because you're going to have a good roof in a good neighborhood, and you're going to have a working car, et cetera, et cetera. That's the conventional, but it's not enough. I found out I already had that before I started thinking, before I started being afraid and being neurotic, because things were not going my way. And the end of my voyage, which has no end, now I know it has no end and no beginning, was to apply a non-conventional way of understanding phenomena by seeing through them rather than looking at them. So I don't look at billiard balls or their classical interactions of this one pushes that one at this angle, and if you hit it with this strength, it's going to go this, and if you put it in space, it will always stay in the same direction forever, etc., etc. I don't look at phenomena. I look at the essence or the nature of any phenomenon and any non-phenomenon. And I was able to free myself. That means that reality has been able to see itself clearly through this mind, whatever that means. Anyone is free to ask, what do you mean that reality sees itself clearly through your mind?
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
The only thing is, to me, I've found the same thing through understanding words, period.
yes. So
because the thing is, what's inside of the real meaning of words is the essence of the action. It's that simple.
Reality looks at itself individually through each mind, and then it sees itself as that mind, allows it to see itself. So that's where it is. Meaning is distilled one mind at a time, and then when two minds find the same meaning, there's that perfect communication is like, hi, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I agree. I concur. All right. And after a while, you just don't talk to each other anymore because you get bored. Yeah, you know everything. I know everything. We agree. Hey, what's the point? So you look for somebody else that doesn't understand. You go, okay, well, let's spar ideas. So the answer to, before we go any further, the answer to Jairo's question, how all this thing comes together. This is perfectly described in the Hindu and the Buddhist tradition, not so much in the, not so clearly in the Western of philosophies, but rather clearly in Western psychology. So if you put it all together, it all makes sense. So reality sees itself through a conduit, a rabbit's hole, which has the first characteristic is that it has receptors. So out of reality emerge phenomena that are able to look and feel through contact at other phenomena. Because the zero Kelvin, there's nothing there. But let's if I look at myself as a bundle of receptors, reality through this bundle of receptors is able to see itself. And when I say itself, it's me, you, the chair, the everything. So it all starts with contact. A camera is a receptor. Well, an eye is a receptor. The skin is a receptor. The nerves, everything in us is able to assess temperatures heuristically, not scientifically, but, we can see things, we can see movement, we can see colors, we can see objects, we can differentiate forms, shapes. We can feel temperatures. We know what's hot, what's not, especially what's hot for us. We don't touch it. We can feel electrical shock. We can feel warmth. We can feel a whole bunch of stuff. We taste, we smell, we hear. And then, so through contact, fasa they call it, then you get a electrochemical series of reactions that are there put together, and they flow. It's just a basic hardware. So those the contact with the exterior produces electrochemical reactions, and there is a input. There's an input, and that input is put together, and it arises feelings. I feel heat. I feel hotness. I feel, agreeable odors and disagreeable. I feel noises. Some are pleasant or some are unpleasant. And then from contact, emotion, a physiological feeling, and then feeling, which is automatic. It feels good. It feels bad. This is scary. I'm going to run. I don't know what it is. Get me the fuck out of here. And then from that, then you have a complex processing here, which has different levels of complexity, because you start in the reptilian brain. That one doesn't know shit. It only knows fight, flight, fawn. There's another one. Fight, flight, fawn, freeze. Those four things. That there's no capacity to understand. There's only feeling and reaction, like a switch.
What does fun mean?
Fawn is to give yourself like, okay, you can take me if you want. Dogs fawn. If we tell them, bad boy, bad dog, and then they get down, and then they open their legs, they give their genitals to us, which is the weakest part of theirs, and it's like, okay, you go ahead. I'm submissive. Fawn is to submit, and freeze is to play dead. That's a different story.
And what about fuck? Fuck? Is that in
there? That's fight in a sense. That's fight in a sense, to reproduce. So you could put it in the sense, in the same. Fight would be actually getting along or not getting along. Interaction, social contract. That's pretty much in the same department. So from contact, you have physiological emotions. They move you. Then you feel at the very basic level, this is good, this is bad, I like it, I don't like it. How do you explain that you don't like the smell of shit? You don't explain it until you go, my body, must know that this is dangerous. It interprets it as dangerous. Flies don't have any problem with it. Hold on a second, let me finish the thought before you. And then you have the more the processing. The middle brain is the mammalian brain, which you have attachment and detachment. So you start somehow getting more of a clear understanding what it is to be attached and what is not, protection, safety, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have the gray matter. That's where we truly complicate things, where we process, we cognate, we know, we logicize, we create, we invent things to change our environment. And we truly, that's where we know that we know. That's where self-awareness comes into play. Not only there's contact, there's emotion, feeling, and processing, but there's cognition. There is metacognition. I say that the human consciousness is a knowing that knows it is knowing. So that's the answer to your question. That's the way we function. Go ahead, Jairo.
So in your trail or train of thought, you begin with the premise that says reality is uh, something trying to see itself?
No, it's not trying to. It's not trying to. It just happens. Shit happens. So there is no will. There is no intentionality. The universe or phenomena arise from nothing, but not because somebody wanted it, somebody willed it, or because reality as a whole said, I'm going to make things so I can look at myself. It just happens. So once you take the intentionality out of being, things become a little bit more like, okay, this is just shit happening. I am shit happening. Okay, well, it takes the pressure. It's like, what am I supposed to do?
But can you repeat the way you say it at the beginning? Reality is blah blah blah, seeing itself, or something. What was it? How's it go?
Okay, so being, what we call being, is the process or organismic process or phenomenological process through which the whole is able to look at itself with a certain
But
degree of clarity.
but how can that occur when there's entropy, and so there's always going to be more and more disorder? How does
Very
that
good
happen?
idea. Very good idea. I think this idea of the universe eventually is in disorder and nothing happens because it becomes so big that everything becomes so disorganized. The degrees of freedom are so much that nothing makes any sense, I think is a misunderstanding. And I'm going to take you to a thought experiment. And let's pretend that we are reality.
But isn't that the second law of thermodynamics?
It sure is. It sure is. So I'm going to change this idea a little bit. And I'm going to pretend that we are reality looking at itself. And in this case, we're looking at a 70s um, um, lava lamp. A lava lamp. If you look at a lava lamp, I'm sure you all seen one, you have bubbles that arise at the bottom. They go up and then they fall. And they reform and they go up and they fall down and they fall down. And then because of the heat, they reconnect and then go up, etc., etc., etc. So my interpretation of the lava lamp is my interpretation of the second law of thermodynamics. One of the problems with the law of thermodynamics is that it takes an enclosed space, a finite space, and looks at it and it goes, okay, how much matter is there in there? How much energy? And in a probabilistic way, says these are the degrees of freedom that this closed space can be described at. And if I make it bigger, then whatever energy is in there can be expressed in many, many other ways. So more disorder. If you compress everything, everything is very ordered. You can't move, it's all very describable. But as you make things bigger, the degrees of freedom are so many, the space in which the energy can reconform or do what it does is much bigger, so it's difficult to describe. So it's disordered. It doesn't make any sense. But that's only for a finite space. But I say, and you can disagree with me anytime you want, I say that space is infinite. There is no boundaries. There is no inside the box, outside the box. So that puts in question the second law of thermodynamics, that everything is going to die. Because infinitely, you can say that at any point in space, there's going to be some lava lamp where energy, for whatever reason, gets together and forms phenomena from nothingness, from nothingness. And you will say, is that a miracle? And I said, no, it's been described as the quantum quality of space, of empty space. Yes.
Yeah, Luis, I understand what you're saying and going down that road and stuff. But to me, the foundation of people and expression lies, within the beginning of words. Because without any kind of word, there is no communication. You can't say what you do. I mean, you can't describe what you do. Rami can't take and have his opinion on the different things and understanding that he does. He can't learn anything without words, period.
Yeah, I agree.
And the thing is, in the beginning, I mean, that's what, to me, the Bible is not about the creation of people, but it's more about the creation of words. And the thing is, as time has gone by, the thing is, there's different origins of words, In the Eastern religion, like Buddha, to me, he has his own origin of that theology or that belief system. And the same is with Western type of theologies and beliefs and so on and so forth. But without words, nobody can take and express anything, period.
I agree with you. And that parallel that you just drawing, where in the beginning there was the word, makes a lot of sense. Because without word, i.e. without consciousness,
exactly. Well, you
who
still have
who the hell knows there's a beginning anyway. So
well, but you may have consciousness, but you have no way of expressing it to the community.
Yeah, but I'm putting it together. When I say consciousness, I'm talking about your consciousness right now in mine. In the beginning, that means that in order for reality to see itself and understand itself, there has to be a consciousness, a word. So you can put it all together, to simplify and go word and consciousness. That means cognition, logic, rationality, creativity, describing reality, Without that, there is no beginning. There is no reality.
So to me,
and I say this, reality does not know it exists, but through consciousness. It's through you, through Rami, through Jairo, through a mosquito, possibly, through a virus, possibly, I don't know how much. But in any case, if there is no phenomenon, there is no noumena.
I agree with that. I think consciousness I think it does know that it exists. Just like
words?
we brought up this ideal before of, about the coronavirus and having different kind of therapies that actually work. I mean, that there is existence in itself. The fact to me that they do work under certain circumstances.
Yeah. But the question is, if there is no consciousness anywhere in the universe, does the universe know that it exists?
Well, the thing is that, I don't know. The thing is, I think if you try to answer that question and you want to take and put that, you're actually putting nature in a box. And, the thing is, I personally believe that there is a consciousness with nature, and that's what's ever been taught now, because the thing is, nature does talk to people through the actions that people take and respond to.
Wait a minute. You're implying different entities here. You're saying that nature talks.
Yes.
So
it speaks through actions. Nature speaks through the actions of itself.
Isn't that a little bit a schizophrenic situation there, where the mind hears things, but it doesn't know where they come from?
No, I'm not saying like that at all. I think there's a very orderly thing, just like I said to you before about these therapies with coronavirus. I mean, the thing is, some people will hear that, and other people are going to hear that, hey, it's a scientific thing. That doesn't mean nothing. But the thing is, if a person is willing to take the time to examine the reality of it, that there, to me, is nature talking to you. How do you think words are created? Words are created.
But is there a distinction between you and nature? Are you not nature?
What?
Is there a distinction an essential distinction between you and nature. You say
Absolutely.
nature is talking to you, so you're not nature?
Well, they may be.
Oh,
No, the thing is, there's a very distinguished difference between me and nature. Nature is everything. I'm not everything. I'm just a human being, one that understands words and processes words to live in this here world that we do. But
I
the thing
say,
is,
David,
nature is omnipresent. It's everywhere. It's everything. Okay?
verily,
I can't
verily,
control nature, but I can control myself. And I can
let-
control myself through the words
you
and thoughts
can,
that
you
I
can.
have.
I think you're throwing a lot of stuff real quick, and you have to rethink those things.
hold
Because
on, Louis.
if you can't
Before we
control
go any
yourself,
further,
yes,
I have to just remind everyone that even amongst human beings, the majority of communication is nonverbal.
It is. That's true.
yes, 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 no problem. So going back to, I ask these questions because they're fundamental. You see a line of demarcation, a line of separation, essential separation between you and nature. It's like
Absolutely.
and I don't see one. That's the big
That was
difference.
taught by the Socrates. That's why he was
But I
killed.
don't. Yeah, well, I disagree with anyone that says that there's I disagree with anyone that says that there's a line in the sand somewhere in the universe that separates anything.
Well, let me provide a unity because we're getting into the minutia of difference here, and let me just state that there's a word that allows us to circumvent the is there a line, is there not a line? I'm drawing this line, I'm defending these borders. There's no line there. Sort of conflict. That word is the word qualia. So what differentiates?
Wait a second, Rami. What is it? How do you spell it?
Qualia. It's like quality, but instead of ity, it's just a. Qualia.
It's Qualia. Qualia.
Oh,
Qualia.
that sounds Latin.
Right. Qualia. Yeah. What it you can look up the definition, but I'm introducing it for the purposes of allowing us to be unique. Let's say we're all human beings, but we all are particular human beings, and we all exist within an environment, but we exist within particular environments. Some features are shared, other features are unique. That's the bridge.
Okay, so what's shared?
Right. So what's shared is, we could label a subset of that the social contract. I think that it's safe to posit that most of the social contract is unspoken. It's an understood. It's an understood not only within our own species, but it's an understood amongst all life forms, 2 degrees, not wholly. And sometimes through our human constructs, we can blind ourselves to that understanding.
All right, let's. I'm going to explain that in a simple way. Rami, that's a good point. I am in the desert. I'm the only schmuck walking around, probably looking for water. And then I bump into another schmuck. Right there. I know that I'm a schmuck, and I know that the other guy is a schmuck. I know my nature. I know what I'm made of. I know all the potentials from very psychotic, psychopathic to saintly. Well, I know the spectrum of being human because I am one. So I could kill him. I could fuck him. I could rob him. I could just look at him and try to understand him.
He could do
Who
the
are
same
you?
to you.
That's right. So what you're saying, Rami, is absolutely right. It's like, hey, wait a minute. There's another human there. I know me, so I infer him. Let's see what, in the scope of being human, where this guy is. Where in the spectrum is he? Is he autistic? Is he schizophrenic? Is he a saint? Is he, scientist? Whatever.
I'm here.
So I have to right away have an intuition of what that guy is about, and I have to create that social contract real quick.
You need me to come to you?
Are you going to try to kill me? I'm going to try to kill you. What are we going to talk? Can you talk? Do you speak my language? Hey, hi. So and that happens in society. When you're on I-4, you're driving with a whole bunch of schmucks out there. So you are already knowing what you're dealing with because you know yourself. And with your experience is telling you, this guy may be paying attention, he may not be paying attention, he may be texting, he may not be texting, all kinds of stuff. Every social encounter is intuition and then verbalization. Absolutely.
Please, you got a question?
There's nonverbal communication at first. And,
Yeah.
and like Rami said, most of it is nonverbal.
Yeah.
And nonverbal means non-word, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in
There's
the
a German
beginning was not the
psychologist.
word.
There's a German
So David
psychologist.
is wrong. In the beginning was not the word. In the beginning was the nonverbal communication.
Yeah, but you're just making a parallel that is, it's not going to get you anywhere, because we're talking about in the beginning of knowing, there was knowing. So so it doesn't apply. But there's a German psychologist that says we cannot not communicate. It's just funny that he said that, because he said this: we cannot not communicate. Even if you don't do anything, if you don't say anything, you're already communicating. Why? Because the schmuck in front of you is looking at you, communicating for you. It's like he's assuming, has an intuition. He's trying to analyze. He's trying to probe around and go, what is this guy saying by not saying anything? Is he being passive aggressive? Is he being distracted? Does he look like he's somewhere in La La Land? Maybe he can't talk my language, etc., etc. Okay, your question, David.
I have a question, yeah. I understand, to me, what you're talking about and what the substance is your own critical theory of these circumstances that exist. My question is, how do you define critical theory? Because that's a part of our society right now.
Yeah. Critical, to me, is logic, rationality, analysis, getting the data, explaining feelings, emotions, irrationality. So I am, I very often use the parallel with Mr. Spock. A great combination of rationality and logic, scientific analysis of data, and with feelings. Spock had feelings, but not many, because he was 50-50. He was like a Vulcan with a little bit of human. So his feelings were there, obviously. You could see it. And they were downregulated. They were subdued, or they were the allies, let's put it that way, of a higher cognition, logic, rationality, and creativity working the problem. So critical is following the contact, emotion, feeling, processing, cognition, blah, 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 all the way, and understanding that critic applies to the higher thinking, the meta thinking, rather than the contact, the emotion, the feeling, or even the processing. A lot of people process a lot of data, but they don't distill any meaning out of it. So critical thinking is that thinking.
Critical theory.
Critical theory, you have to. Being is a theory, because reality is infinite and eternal, so it cannot completely understand itself. It's only an asymptote to infinity. So being is a theory in and of itself. So you cannot. There's no absolute knowledge.
let me come up and explain to you what I've come to the conclusion. We're born into this world and we're taught through many different social contracts. And the social contracts that we are taught actually become our criticism of things that are not within that range of the things that we've been taught. Okay, and we're critical of our own, say, social contracts that we've made with life, period. And the thing is, so when we are talking to anybody or whatever, our life becomes a reflection of this critical understanding we've taken upon the things that we've been fed into our life, till we defend it. Now, the word theory, and I never thought about this before, I have thought about it a little bit. The word theory, oddly, in Greek, comes to God, and it means, actually a theory would be, focusing on God for the substance of the criticism of the social contract that we all make with life, which is the things that we learn in life. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just put something in here so you can continue. But I'm looking at the etymology of the word theory. It says conception, mental scheme, from late Latin.
That's
but
the
it has
English
yeah,
word.
but it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do
That's
with
the
it.
current definition of it. I'm talking about origination. Origination. A lot of times when you go to origination on words, you get a much clearer understanding of what's actually happening in the context of the words themselves. I understand, theory now is something that's really, really good, but really doesn't exist. So the thing is, whatever the criticism is that a person is making to support their theory is actually a narrative. There's nothing true. It's just something until it becomes fact. When it becomes fact and something that's livable,
but there's no fact. The problem is there's no fact, because every mind sees things from a relative perspective. So if you're looking for something where everybody agrees, you might as well sit down patiently, because it's not going to happen.
But the thing is, in what you're saying with that statement, there's no reality either.
Yes, there is, only if you agree with yourself.
That's the criticism.
So, but at the end of the day, I've come to the conclusion that I cannot agree mostly with anyone but myself.
That's true.
So there you are. My theory is my practice is my theory, but it's theoretical to anybody else.
But there is something there bigger than you, and you don't believe that.
No, I do believe that. I am that, actually. I don't believe anything. I am the whole of reality.
If you claim to be that, then you're critical about the way you believe in something bigger than whatever you might be.
Exactly why I was saying that reality doesn't know itself but through consciousness, with a certain degree of clarity. But it cannot be, reality cannot see itself clearly 100%. Only 99.9999 when it's very lucky. You see what I mean?
Because that happens to be the exact number of statistical stats that are made up.
Yes. So reality can know itself 99.999999%, but the whole cannot. A tooth cannot bite itself. So the beauty of this is that if you look for any meaning, look inside, David. Look inside, and then when you feel
100% on that, because the meaning is not only within inside a person's state. Period of position in life is determined by the words and consumption that they make where they are at that time and their history. But the thing is, what I'm saying is there's something much larger than that. Okay. And the thing is, I think that larger substance is found in the words, not in my own theory of my own critical thinking, but in the words that have been presented before us by different people in different ways. Just like we all have a different perception and we all learn from each other. And I don't think that is ever going to change.
Yeah, your knowledge is not yours.
In a different thing. And that there is a wonderful thing, I think.
Your knowledge is not yours. Your knowledge is the knowledge of the whole of humanity, from the word itself, from the beginning of consciousness.
Well, that's
you
true
know,
because the thing is, you go back and we all are, sources from the words that we've been taught and how
that's
we've been
right.
taught them and everything.
That's right.
You're right. My words are not mine. My words are what I've learned from other people. I agree with
Yeah,
you, and
you
my
are building
understanding
on the
is I do
shoulders of
the same thing.
giants.
But the
You
only
know,
thing is, I also realize that there's many different perceptions of that. And the
it,
thing is, I look for the ones that make it easiest for me to understand, not the ones that are going to take me off on the why question into an infinite amount of nowhere.
that
That's
is
not
your
my life.
decision. That is your decision. If your consciousness does not seek to understand, this meta thinking, this thing, this
Meta
breaking
means
down
meta.
then
Everybody
it's
uses
up to
the word
you.
meta. Meta is a simple word that means with, period. I mean, with whatever you're going to put behind meta is
No.
what it's referring to. I don't know
Meta
how you
is,
define meta. I mean, since they've come out with the internet and technology, it seems to have some kind of superior meaning, but in reality, it just means with whatever. I mean, say
well, you
data, that means with data, period. I mean, it's
listen,
not.
meta, and I have my etymology. That's what I look at all the time. Word forming element of Greek origin, meaning after, behind, among, between, changed, altered, higher, beyond, in the
All
midst
means
of,
with.
in
You take
common
one
with,
word, with English word with. You put them
whatever.
all together, and I mean, the thing is, they all come out. They come out to the same. I
I
mean,
say meta is, in the case where I use it, is beyond.
beyond.
Thought beyond thought. So the
It
think,
can't exist then because if you use it in your abstract. Because the thing is, if you say beyond data, well, the thing is, you have to have data in order for the processor to take and actually work. It has to work with data. But the only thing is that when you're using it meta data, okay, what kind of data are you looking for? That there begins to break it down as to the data that you're looking for, and the data that is within
yeah,
inside of you is the data that's been put inside of you over a period of however old you are, from the time
yeah,
you
yeah.
begin. And the
Also,
thing is, those sources are from outside sources as well as from inside sources, from different,
yes, yes, it's complex. It's complex. You and I look at the same tree. You and I look at the same reality. There's no two ways
well, we
about
don't.
it.
We see a tree in a different way. I could show you an oak
Ah,
tree.
ah. So we see the same reality, but we think differently about it. That's the crux of the matter. But it's the same one reality. You
Well,
know.
I mean, that there's very simple. That's true. I mean, it's like looking at a
There you
window.
go.
Well, that's a window. That's a piece of glass. Well,
Yeah.
okay, what kind of glass is it? Is it, something that will stop the penetration of a hurricane coming through? What?
There's a song by James Taylor, the Secret of Life, and he says in there that now the thing about time is that time is not really real. How does it feel to you? Einstein said that time did not exist. And when you talk about time, you can talk about reality or being.
Those theories of those people. I mean, everybody has to create their own.
But that's your reality is your own. My reality is my own. There.
That should be
David,
respected as so.
Yes,
David,
I need to
per,
go.
Okay.
perhaps David can clarify what he means by critical theory and how does it help us find knowledge?
Critical theory. How does critical theory
And,
help us? It
and
is knowledge.
perhaps,
It is a person's knowledge, Iro. Critical theory is what a person believes. And the only thing is they back it up. They're critical about the things that they believe. They believe it to be true. Just like Luis believes what he does to be true and going through his whole process of thing. And the same is with me, what I believe to be true. But the only thing is, I've gotten more involved in cynical theory as well as critical theory. And cynical theory means that you ask a lot of questions about your own critical theory. So that way you do self-examination through cynical theory. Through
David,
cynical
I have a question for you. This is my parting question. I have to go and do more practical things, more meat and potato things. But how do you describe when you hear me talking and asking questions? How do you describe my way of thinking as opposed to yours or just a regular guy out there? How
Well,
would you
me,
say? what would you say makes up my theory of or my knowledge? You know, how do you see what I say and what I think and my conclusions?
All your circumstances that you've been exposed to in life have created the way you think, period. That's the way I look at it. So the thing is, your thinking is much different than mine, and mine is much different than yours in a way. But yet, we have very close similarities too, in the fact that you're a word person. I'm a word person, and we connect to those definitions of words. But the only thing is, your definitions of words, I think, are more current. And sometimes, like myself, I go back into, okay, what did this thing originally mean? And then I can see all the synonyms flowing out from the origination of that word and how they're used in today's life. So when a person starts talking to me, the thing is, by the words they use, show me the definitions that they're actually using from the beginning of that particular word creation. You see, and the thing is, basically all of our word creations actually come from Greek, even though there are many words that we have that are formed also from the Hebrew language too. But the thing is, basically, they all come from Greek, and they're used and redefined in many different ways through the Roman language and also through the English language too, because every time that you change a language, the definition sometimes change, but sometimes stays the same too. But it's usually found, the original definition will be found inside of that word, that word's definition from the beginning in one of the synonyms. But the thing is, sometimes that because if it don't meet the standards of science, what they do is they totally alter and change the word completely to make it be what they want it to be. When I'm talking about they, I'm talking about societies. I'm talking about social contracts that are made within societies from the past in order to take and create their own critical theory and their own social contracts with the society that they're in at the present time. Just like right now, we're in a huge shift of this thing happening right now with technology. It's just
one last question.
Can't even grasp what's going on.
One last question. This is something that maybe could make the topic of our next Zoom meeting. Does one's worldview affects the meaning of the words that one is using?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good topic. I like that. Yeah, that'd be good.
So, and how do we define worldview?
Yeah, worldview. But I mean, the thing is, worldview is basically what we view, period, because our world is within.
Worldview would be the verbalization of our theory of what reality is or what being is. So maybe we could talk about worldview. What is your worldview? What is my worldview? How does that compare, and how does that affect the meaning that we give to the words that we use? So there, I'll leave you guys with this
does
question.
One's worldview affect one's knowledge, as Gettier proposes? The Venn diagram says that there's truths and then there's beliefs, and when they come together, the common area is knowledge. So knowledge is made up of beliefs that are truths.
Well, the thing is, truth is relevant to the social group, or the social contract. You know, I mean, what's truth in one may not be truth in another. What's right in one place.
I've given up on the idea of understanding the collective or the social.
Take a look at
I just want to understand
what
myself.
I'm sharing.
Right.
The Gettier problem that Rami shared. See the
guys.
I'm on my way out too. So
thank you very much. Always
week, right.
Thank you.
Always a wonderful
Luis.
experience.
Yeah, for me too.
I enjoy these very much.
Everybody really has an input in it and makes this whole thing work. And I just wish we'd, I mean, sometimes I think it'd be great to have a few more people, but I think we do well with our little group that we have now. But if that
Well,
came about, that's
we
great.
will not know until it happens, right? So,
That's right. It is what it is, right?
yes. Rami, you were going to say something, maybe a parting word. You're muted. There.
Right. So just a seed. It's the two of you were discussing perhaps having the discussion with regard to the inventions of construct. That's what I was hearing out of yourself, Luis and David.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have to say is just parting words, peace and prosperity to you both.
Yeah, you too, Rami. You as well, and Jairo,
and health.
Yeah,
Health, because if you don't have health, there's no peace, there's no prosperity.
you got that right.
All right, guys, take care.
And don't forget to wear a
Wash
mask.
your hands and don't touch your nose.
Wash your hands, social distance, and investigate the hydroxy
Chloroquine.
HDX.
Bye, guys.
Zinc and vitamin D. Good night.
Bye.
Oh, and zinc. I'm taking zinc and vitamin D. Bye, Luis. Hello,
How are you, Jairo? Do you have any stray thoughts?
Do you see what I'm sharing?
I do.
Yes.
You know, there are many versions of that.
Yes.
Well, we had a version of this back in our backyard about 4 years ago, I want to say, and we had a version. No, it was part of Central Florida philosophy. We held it in our backyard. And, remember the concrete circle? There was a version of this particular. There's a word for when you have the two circles and the sort of ellipse that forms of their overlap. But this is a modified version because this one differentiates between what the Geithner problem is specifying. The Geithner problem is specifying the purple area.
Geithner.
And yeah, Geithner. Thank you.
Gittier.
Gittier. Thank you. I love having linguists in overlapping realms and spheres. So what the vision is how we come about a furtherance of understanding, or at least a shared understanding. Okay. So before, when we discussed this about 4 years ago in my backyard, we discussed beliefs and truths, and we came up with this alternative of a purple circle within the blue territory of belief. And I've always held more towards the end of these being overlapping realms, because there's no way that we've necessarily come across all truths. I mean, if that were the case, we wouldn't be who we are, right? I mean, part of who we are is people still asking questions. If we had all truths, we would no longer be asking questions, right? Now, Gittier, he takes it another step. So he's operating not in the beliefs and the truths, but he's operating within the realm of the overlap, within that purple spot, and then our ellipse, however you want to describe the football shape. He's describing that there would be like his area is that purple area, and then there's knowledge. Knowledge is the thing where if all the people die and people come along and find a way, and I'm saying, let's say another species comes after us on the same planet, or well, that's a fair enough case. And then they read the stuff and they see carved in stone 1 + 1 = 2, and they're able to, because in their own way they've discovered that same truth, they can go, oh, okay, these people knew something. And we know that they know something because we discovered that same thing. So Gittier's problem is this idea of you could have something that is true and correct, but the ends by which you came across it were incorrect. Or you could have the thing that looks to be true incorrect. I mean, that satisfies all the requirements of justified true belief, and yet is not true. I mean, in other words, I think the reason why you have that golden circle within the purple vertically standing football shape is to point out the fact simply that all the ingredients can be there, and then still we can get it wrong, and yet believe that we have it right. And there's the source of our conflict to the extent that we understand it.
Test whether we're in the yellow or we're in the purple.
Right. I spend a lot of my time trying to find means to that end. But I also have a day job, and she's calling, so I've got to go. She's beyond a job. She is my life, and I only want to make sure that we're ready to go 7 p.m. Thursday. You're good to host for us to explore the big picture?
Oh, we have something coming up.
That's right, Orlando Thinkers Discussion.
Orlando Thinkers Discussion. Is that in the Central Florida? Oh, that's in another. That's in
meetup.
Another meetup.
Would it help you if I were to create a copy of it in Central Florida Philosophy?
Yes.
Okay, I will do that.
Maybe somebody will join from our side.
I gotta go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.